Hello, this is Dr. Hanaa Assil, and this is paper 4.1 in Combined Science of November 2021. So the first question here says the boxes on the left show the names of different types of cell. The boxes on the right show the functions of these cells. Draw one straight line from each cell to its function. So let's take a look. Ciliated cells. Do you remember which one was ciliated cell? That was the cells that have cilia that are present in the respiratory system. And what was their function? Movement of mucus. What about the palisade cell? Which one was the palisade cell? That was the one in the leaf that has a lot of chloroplasts. And of course, this was to do photosynthesis. The sperm cell is the male cell in humans, and that is for reproduction. Okay? Figure 1.1 is a photomicrograph of some cells in a plant root. State the name of one structure shown in the figure. So it should be something you can see in the figure that identifies cell X as a plant cell. Now, what can you see in the figure that indicates the plant cell? You can see that there is a cell wall, and you can see that it has a sap vacuole. So any of that would be the answer. Identify the type of plant cell labeled Y. Where is Y? Can you see what Y is? Y is the root hair cell. Then he says the liquid inside cell X has higher concentration of salts than the liquid inside cell Y. Now explain why the water moves from Y to X. Now if he says that X has higher concentration of salts, that means that which of them has more water potential or higher water potential. Remember that in this case, since Y has less salts, that means it has higher water potential. So normally the water would move from where you have higher water potential, so that is in Y, to lower water potential. This is across the partially permeable cell membrane. And of course, this process is called osmosis. Describe how water is lost from the leaves by a plant, the leaves of a plant, by transpiration. Okay, what is transpiration? Remember, these are the layers in the leaf. What happens when there is transpiration? Of course, transpiration is the loss of water from the leaves. Now, how does this happen? The water evaporates from the mesophyll cells. Can you see that? It evaporates from the surrounding cells into the airspace, and then it moves out of the leaf through the stomata. So we say the water evaporates from the surface of the mesophyll cells into air spaces. Then the water vapor moves out of the leaves through the stomata by diffusion. The roots of a plant absorb magnesium ions. Explain the effect of a deficiency of magnesium on the color of plant leaves. Remember, you should know that a plant that has magnesium can make chlorophyll. Remember, magnesium is needed to make chlorophyll, so this makes the leaf green in color. But if I have a leaf that has lack of magnesium, no magnesium, then it cannot make chlorophyll, so it will not be green. It would be yellow. Figure 2.1 shows the energy and state changes for water when it is heated from -10 to 120 degrees Celsius. So this is basically a heating curve. Now he's saying state the names of process A. Which one is A? Can you see where A is? A is going from solid to liquid. When something goes from solid to liquid, that is melting. Where is B? B is going from gas to liquid. Gas to liquid is condensation. Where is C? C is liquid to solid. Liquid to solid is freezing. Then he says, describe the differences between energy, arrangement, and movement of particles in the water at -10 and at 120. So even if you don't know, because we're talking about water, you should know. But even if you don't know, where is -10? -10 in the graph indicates that we're talking about a solid. Where is 120? It indicates we're talking about a gas. So basically, he's telling you to explain the difference between a solid and a gas with respect to energy of the particles. So of course, you should realize that the particles have more kinetic energy at 120 than at minus 10, because at minus 10 it's a solid. What about arrangement? Well, particles at minus 10, which is a solid, are closely packed, regular rows. At 120, which is a gas, the particles are far apart, randomly arranged. What about movement of particles? Well, particles at minus 10 will vibrate in fixed position, while at 120, particles have fast, free, random motion. Okay? The melting point of sodium chloride is 800. The boiling point of sodium chloride is 1465. Explain why melting point and boiling point of sodium chloride are higher than those for water. So why is the boiling point of sodium chloride much higher than that of water? Use ideas about bonds. Of course, what is sodium chloride? Sodium chloride is an ionic compound. It has strong ionic bonds, strong attraction forces between positive and negative ions. In order to melt, we have to break these bonds. So this will need a lot of energy to be broken. So you need to heat it to a very high temperature. What about water? Water is simple molecular structure. And when it melts or boils, we're breaking the weak attraction forces between molecules. We're not breaking the covalent bond inside the water. We're breaking the weak attraction forces between the molecules, and that needs a very small amount of energy to be broken. A dog accelerates from rest to a maximum constant speed. Complete the boxes to show the energy changes for the dog as it is running. Okay, what kind of energy does it have in its muscles as it is running? Of course, we have in our body, we have chemical energy. Now, as it is running, the chemical energy will change to kinetic. And what kind of energy is lost to the environment? Remember, the kind of energy that is lost to the environment is thermal energy or heat energy. Figure 3.1 shows a speed time graph for the dog. Figure 3.1 calculate the acceleration of the dog. How do we get acceleration? Acceleration is the change in speed over time. So you can see that the speed here goes from 0 to 17. So my change in speed is 17 minus 0 over the time, and that would give me an acceleration of 4.9. Then he says use the figure to calculate the distance traveled by the dog while accelerating. Now, where is the figure? This is the figure. While accelerating means the distance from speed 0 to 17. How do we get distance? Distance is average speed times time. So that is from 0 to 17. So that is half times 17 times the time, or we say it is the area under the curve, so it's half base times height. That gives you 29.75. You can write it as 30 meters. The dog has a mass of 32 kilograms. Use the figure to calculate kinetic energy of the dog at the maximum constant speed. Where is the maximum constant speed? That's the speed of 17. How do we get kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is half mv squared, half times the mass, which is 32, times the speed squared. So that is this number in joules, of course. Use your answer to this to calculate the power of the dog as it accelerates from rest. How do we get power? Power is energy over time. So the energy that we calculated over the time it took to do that, that gives you the power in watt. The unit is watt. Complete the sentence to define an ecosystem. What's an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a unit containing all the organisms and their environment interacting together in a given area. Okay? Then he gives you a food web and he says use the figure to identify one organism in the food web that is on the third trophic level. Remember, when we're counting trophic levels, we start from the plant. So trophic level starts from the phytoplankton, that's trophic level 1. Now, where is the third trophic level? The zooplankton and the krill are second trophic level. So which one is the third? The fish and the blue whale, any one of them, he wants one of them. These are in the third trophic level. Describe how energy is transferred from the zooplankton to the bird. Where's the zooplankton? Can you see that? Going to the bird. Where's the bird? You're going through zooplankton to fish to bird. How is the energy transferred? By feeding. Remember, when the fish feed on zooplankton, the energy is transferred from the zooplankton to the fish. Now, when the bird feeds on the fish, then the energy is transferred from the fish to the bird. Figure 4.2 is a diagram showing stages in the process of eutrophication. Do you remember what's eutrophication? Eutrophication is the effect of excess use of fertilizers. We said if we add too much fertilizer to the soil, then the nitrate ions from the fertilizer leach from the soil into the lake. The fertilizer runs off the land into the water in the lake. This causes increased availability of the nitrate ions, causes what? This causes growth of producers. You start to find plants growing on the surface of the lake. Now, that means light is blocked from reaching the plants at the bottom. The plants at the bottom die. Then aerobic respiration by what? By bacteria, because the bacteria are breaking down these dead plants. So they respire, they use up the oxygen, and death of the fish occurs due to lack of oxygen. This is how we explain eutrophication. Table 5.1 shows some names and some formula of 4 metal oxides. So what is the name of Fe2O3? Fe2O3, of course, is iron oxide, but it's iron what? What is the valency of iron? Remember, the valency of iron is whatever is under the oxygen. So the valency of iron is actually 3. So this is called iron 3 oxide. Now, how do we write the formula of copper 2 oxide? Copper, of course, is Cu. Oxide is O. That's the oxygen. That means the valency of copper is 2 and the valency of oxygen also is 2. So the formula is CuO. Lead can be extracted from lead oxide by heating with carbon. State the name of the reducing agent in this reaction. Now, this is a redox reaction, because it involves both oxidation and reduction. Now, where is the oxidation? Where is the reduction? The lead oxide changed to lead. So this is reduction. The one that has been reduced is the oxidizing agent. So the lead oxide is the oxidizing agent. Now, what has happened to the carbon? It changed to carbon dioxide. That is gain of oxygen. And the substance that has been oxidized is the reducing agent. So the reducing agent in this case is carbon. Why is it? Because it took the oxygen from the lead oxide, or it gains the oxygen from lead oxide. When lead is heated with copper oxide, copper metal forms. Now, when he mentions this, that means lead reacted with copper oxide. That means lead is more reactive than copper. Then he says when lead is heated with iron oxide, there is no reaction. That means lead is less reactive than iron. Now, use this information to deduce the order of reactivity. Of course, that means that iron is more than lead and lead is more than copper. Why? Because the more reactive metal displaces the less reactive metal in a reaction. Zinc is heated with iron 2 oxide. State whether a reaction occurs. Of course, we said that has to do with the reactivity series. And we said a more reactive metal can displace a less reactive metal from its oxide. So if we say zinc with iron oxide, would that work? Yes. A reaction occurs because zinc is more reactive than iron and it will displace it. A piece of lead is placed into aqueous copper nitrate and a reaction occurs. Before the reaction, the lead has a silver color and the aqueous copper nitrate is blue. Now, if I put a piece of lead into copper nitrate, which is blue, what will happen? Of course, the lead reacts with the copper nitrate to give copper metal, and the blue solution becomes colorless because it will no longer be copper nitrate, it will be lead nitrate, which is colorless. So a blue solution becomes colorless, and a reddish brown solid, which is copper, is formed. Figure 6.1 shows compressions and rarefactions of a sound wave in air. On figure 6.1, draw a double-headed arrow to show one wavelength. Remember, one wavelength is the distance between two compressions or the distance between two rarefactions. Compare the separation of particles in the air in compressions and rarefactions. Which of these is compressions and which one's a rarefaction? Of course, the compressions is the one in which the particles are closer together. The rarefactions, the particles are further apart from each other. Table 6.1 shows the frequency range of sounds that different animals can hear. Identify two animals that can hear sounds above the normal range of human hearing. What is the normal range of human hearing? Remember, humans will hear anything between 20 and 20,000 hertz. He's asking which two animals can hear above 20,000 hertz. So which of these can hear above 20,000 hertz? We have the bat, the dog, the horse. He wants two of them. Any two of them is correct. Humans emit sounds between 85 hertz and 255 hertz when talking. Identify which animals cannot hear all sounds of humans talking. So they cannot hear 85 to 256. Which ones cannot hear 85 to 256? The bat, because it hears much higher, and the canary also hears, he says, cannot hear all the sounds. The canary can hear some of the sounds, but it will not be able to hear anything below 250. So both bat and canary bird cannot hear all sounds of humans talking. An elephant emits a sound at a frequency of 170 hertz. A second elephant hears the sound. There is a distance of 60 wavelengths between the two elephants. Calculate the distance. Now, he wants the distance, but that he says the distance is 60 wavelengths, so I want to calculate what is the length of one wavelength. You know that wavelength is speed of sound over frequency. So in this case, one wavelength is 2 meters. Now he says the distance is 60 wavelengths. So it is 2 times 60, so the distance is 120 meters. This figure shows a drawing of an elephant. Elephants use their ears to transfer thermal energy to the environment. This helps to control their body temperature. Suggest how an elephant's ears are adapted to transfer thermal energy to the environment, and use ideas about conduction, convection, or radiation. Of course, the fact about the ear is that it has a large surface area, so it will transfer heat to the air by what kind of process? By radiation. Figure 7.1 is a diagram of the gas exchange system in humans. On the figure, draw a label line and the letter B to identify a bronchus. Where is the bronchus? Remember, one is called bronchus, the plural is bronchi, and these are the two branches that come out of the trachea. So the bronchus is any one of the two branches that come out of the trachea. State two features of the alveoli that make them efficient gas exchange surface. Remember, what did we say about alveoli? That they have large surface area, thin walls. This allows faster diffusion of gases in and out of the alveoli. The pulse rate and breathing rate of two people are measured before and after activity. Compare the increase in breathing rates of the two people. Which one is the breathing rate? The breathing rate is the lighter color. So what is the difference in the breathing rate of the two people? Of course, person one has more increase in breathing rate. If you look at person one, the increase between before activity and after activity. And then person two, before activity and after activity, is much less. So the person one had more increase in breathing rate after activity than person two. Table 7.1 shows the pulse rate data and percent increase in pulse rate for person 1. Now he says complete it for person 2. So let us take a look at the pulse rate for person 2. Where is person 2? Before activity, person 2 before activity is 70. After activity is 130. So the change in pulse rate, that's the difference between them, is 60. Then he wants the percent increase in pulse rate. How do we get percent increase in pulse rate? Percent increase would be the change over the original. So 60 over 70 times 100, the percent increase here is around 86%. One reason why breathing rate increases during activity is the need for more oxygen. So when we breathe faster during activity, this is to give the blood more oxygen. Explain one other reason. Of course, what is happening in the alveoli? We're giving the blood oxygen and we're taking from it what? We're taking from it carbon dioxide. So when we breathe faster during activity, this is to increase respiration. This produces more carbon dioxide. The faster breathing removes the carbon dioxide faster. A scientist uses 3 processes to treat a sample of seawater to make it safe to drink and store. The sample of seawater contains some solid plastic waste. The scientist uses a filter to remove the solid plastic waste. Explain how this filter works. How does the filter work? Of course, when we use a filter, this means that the solid plastic wastes will remain in the filter and the seawater will pass through the filter. The seawater contains large amounts of dissolved salt. After filtering, the scientist uses a separation method to obtain pure water from seawater. Which method do we use to obtain pure water from seawater? We said this would be distillation, or you could call it simple distillation. And he says, explain how this method works. You should remember that in distillation, the solution is heated to boiling, the water evaporates, it's cooled, condensed to be collected as pure water, leaving the dissolved salt. Next, the scientist adds a chemical to the pure water to make it safe to drink and store. What do we add to pure water to make it safe? Remember that this water, we have removed the solid particles, we have removed the dissolved salts, but we still have what? We still have bacteria. We need to add chlorine to kill bacteria in the water. A student connects a heater and 4 identical lamps to a battery. There is a current of 8.5 amperes in the heater. There is a current of 1.5 amperes in each lamp. Calculate the total current in the battery. Remember that if we have all of these connected in parallel, then actually the total current was divided, part of it going to the heater, another part going to 2 lamps, another part going to the other 2 lamps. So what is the total? We have the total is 8.5. He says each of the lamps is 1.5, so the first row of lamps is 1.5 and the second row of lamps is 1.5, so the total current is 11.5. State the name of the instrument used to measure current. What do we use to measure current? We use an ammeter, which is usually connected in series. A student has 2 switches, S1 and S2, and a fuse. the student changes the circuit so that switch 1 controls the heater but not the lamps. Switch 2 controls all the 4 lamps but does not control the heater. So how do we connect this? The fuse protects the whole circuit. You want the fuse to be connected in series with the whole circuit. The S1 to be connected to the heater only but not the lamps, and the S2 to be connected to the lamps but not the heater. This is how your diagram should look. Can you see that? So that box up there next to the battery, that's the fuse. This will control all the circuits. Then the S1 affects only the heater. The S2 has to be above the lamps, all the lamps, because it will affect all the lamps. And that's the end of this paper. I hope this was easy and clear enough and helpful to you. Please keep listening and thank you.